There is a restlessness that lives in the hearts of men, a gnawing force, silent and unspeaking yet louder than any war drum. It is not born from courage or honor, but from a hunger, ancient, primal, and barely understood. A hunger for possession, for conquest, for skin, for validation, for the illusion of power. It disguises itself as desire, but at its core, it is spiritual starvation. And it is this hunger that has broken empires more than any invading army ever has. Not every man is ruled by it, but every man feels it. The question is not whether it exists within you, but whether you have bent your knee to it, whether you have become its servant, whether your masculinity has been reduced to the chase of fleeting highs and cheap dopamine dressed up as love. Look closely. Behind the polished Instagram selfies, the overcompensating flex, the endless scrolling, the red lights of the adult sites glowing at 2:43 in the morning, there's no strength, only escape. Only a boy lost in a labyrinth of mirrors, chasing reflections of the woman he thinks will finally make him feel like a man. But a man cannot become a man through the body of a woman. He must walk through the desert of his own weakness. He must wrestle the beast within him and come out victorious, not because he killed it, but because he tamed it, disciplined it, looked it dead in the eye and said, "You do not rule me anymore. You think your hunger is sexual, but that's a lie. It's existential. What you're truly craving is direction, meaning strength, the fire of a mission so profound that the world feels like a distraction. You don't want more pleasure, you want purpose. But because you never built the inner temple, you keep kneeling before false God's lust, attention, validation, and you wonder why you feel more hollow each time you indulge. And it is precisely here that the undisciplined man collapses. He doesn't know how to transmute his fire into focus. He doesn't know how to fast from flesh long enough to find clarity. So he becomes a puppet, pulled by impulses, addicted to images, soaked in shame, always thirsting, never full. Carl Jung said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." The undisciplined man refuses to descend. He runs from his shadows, refuses to confront the parts of him that are obscene, deviant, or dangerous. He represses, then he explodes. He moralizes, then he sins. He judges others, while secretly envying their boldness. His psyche is a battlefield, and he's losing, not to anyone else, but to himself. To discipline your sexuality is not to deny your nature. It is to reclaim it, to take your divine masculine energy, creative, intense, unstoppable land, channel it like a weapon of light. Not to chase every woman you see, but to become the kind of man every woman cannot forget. Not to beg for access to the temple of another, but to build such a kingdom within your own being that others are drawn to serve it. The undisciplined man does not build, he consumes. He does not lead. He follows his urges, his temptations, the algorithm. He does not evolve. He loops over and over, stuck in the same cycle of lust, guilt, numbness, and shame. He thinks freedom is doing what he wants, when he wants. But that is not freedom. That is slavery. Real freedom is the power to say no to the wrong things at the right time with unwavering resolve. Real freedom is to become so anchored in your purpose that nothing can seduce you away from it. Real freedom is to own your desire, not be owned by it. Imagine for a moment a man whose very presence commands respect, not because of arrogance, but because of restraint. A man whose silence speaks louder than another man's thirst. A man who walks past temptation not because he is weak, but because he has something greater to protect: his vision, his mission, his future. That man is not cold. He is fire with a boundary. He is danger with direction. He is desire with discipline. And this is what most men will never understand. Sexual energy is not meant to be wasted, it is meant to be wielded. Every drop of it can build a business. Every drop of it can carve a physique. Every drop of it can fortify the mind, sculpt the soul, electrify your words, sharpen your decisions, and unlock dimensions of you that you didn't even know existed. But it only works if you stop leaking it. Not just through pornography, but through attention, through chasing, through fantasizing, through addiction to being seen. You are not hungry because you lack pleasure. You're hungry because you have forgotten your path. And this is why the ancient initiations of men always involved separation, solitude, celibacy, silence, fasting, battle. Because when you strip a man of his comforts, he must confront the chaos within him. He must meet the demons. He must tame the chaos. He must make his inner wilderness into a kingdom. But are you still ruled by the animal? Or have you begun the transformation? There is no shame in being tempted, but there is tragedy in staying weak. You were not built to beg for beauty. You were built to become so magnificent that beauty begs for you. Yet none of that happens until you learn to sit with your hunger without feeding it. Until you realize that craving is not a command, it's a mirror. And that every impulse you have is an invitation to be ruled or to rise. Let others drown in indulgence. Let others mistake pleasure for power. Let others remain drunk on the lie that more bodies equals more worth. You were made for more. You were made for more. Not to be a collector of moments that evaporate at dawn, but to be a sovereign of your own being. Not to chase the warmth of another body, but to light your own internal sun. You were not sent here to masturbate your destiny away in the name of convenience and modernity. You were not sent here to die soft, aroused, and meaningless. Because here is the truth most will never say aloud. An undisciplined man is easily controlled. He does not think, he reacts. He does not lead, follows the scent of his next fix. He is a consumer of illusions and a slave to his glands. And he will be exploited by every system clever enough to bait his eyes before touching his soul. Governments don't fear him. Corporations profit from him. Pornographers target him. The modern world doesn't need him to be strong. It needs him to be silent, addicted, confused, dependent. A man trapped in lust is a man who will never question authority. He won't build revolution when he's busy refreshing a screen. He won't chase greatness when he's chasing bodies. He won't become dangerous when he's too ashamed to look in the mirror. That's why your discipline is rebellion. And it begins in the most private moment. In the silence of your room, when no one is watching. When your lower nature whispers and your higher self listens. When the world offers you pleasure and you choose pain. The pain of abstaining, of holding the line, of staying sharp, of becoming the kind of man who is dangerous, not because he harms others, but because he cannot be seduced by what weakens them. There's a reason the greatest warriors, saints, and sages all warned against lust, not because they were afraid of women, but because they understood the fire. They saw what happens to men who lose their edge in the name of indulgence. They saw how greatness erodes when comfort becomes the goal. And they knew that if a man could master this one hunger, he could master them all. Because all hunger is connected. The man who cannot delay pleasure will never build a legacy. He will never sustain love. He will never hold vision. He will never plant trees under whose shade he will not sit. Because he's too busy trading the future for the present. He's too busy betraying himself for a brief illusion of intimacy. But the disciplined man, he does not bargain with lust. He negotiates with destiny. He treats his semen like gold, his time like a blade, his focus like a sacred ritual. He does not spill himself to pixels and call it freedom. He does not tell himself lies to justify his weakness. He feels the hunger, but instead of feeding it, he forges it into ambition, into muscle, into art, into fire. And he becomes feared not because he's violent, but because he cannot be bought. You cannot tempt a man who knows his mission. You cannot bribe a man who has seen his own shadow and refused to kneel to it. You cannot seduce a man who has tamed his dragon and rides it like a king. Women feel this instinctively, not through words, but through energy. They know the difference between a man who desires them and a man who needs them. The first is magnetic. The second is repulsive. The first builds kingdoms with or without you. The second begs for attention like a child at the dinner table. And what's tragic is that so many men today think seduction is about technique, charm, or confidence. No, it's about self-mastery. A man who has mastered himself does not need to convince. His aura speaks. His restraint speaks louder than any pickup line. His calmness in chaos, his eyes that do not wander, his energy that says, I am full, these things shake people to their core. Because such a man is rare. And becoming rare, that is power. We live in an age of excess, of endless options, endless distractions, endless dopamine loops. In such an age, the man who can fast is not just strong, he's sacred. The man who can remain unmoved is not just respected, he's revered. And the man who can look temptation in the face and smile, knowing he owns it, that man is the future. This is your birthright, but you must suffer for it. Yes, suffer. Because the path of mastery is not easy. It will feel like death, at times the death of the boy inside you who still thinks women will heal him. The death of the slave within who still chases what does not serve him. The death of illusions, of escapism, of the lie that you can live undisciplined and still win. You must suffer, but let it be sacred suffering. Let your struggle carve you. Let your hunger shape you. Let your resistance to pleasure make you powerful, not bitter, not repressed, but awake, aware, alive in a way no pornified mind could ever understand. You are not here to be tamed by lust. You are here to become fire. Controlled, focused, divine, and the world will not hand this to you. You must take it with silence, with discipline, with the rage of a man who is done being ruled by lower forces. You must become untouchable now by suppressing your desire, but by sanctifying it. Not by denying your urges, but by directing them toward greatness. Because at the end of your life, you will not be asked how many women wanted you. You will be asked, what did you build? Who did you become? What light did you carry through the darkness? What war did you win within yourself? And the answer will not come from your words. It will come from your energy, your spine, your silence. So begin now. Withdraw your attention from the circus. Starve your distractions. Honor your seed. Guard your gaze. Feel the hunger and hold it like a sword. Because the man who can walk with fire in his veins and still stay cool, he owns himself. And the man who owns himself cannot be owned by anyone. And the man who owns himself cannot be owned by anyone. Not by corporations whispering pleasure through glowing screens. Not by algorithms feeding his addictions back to him like a drug dealer who knows exactly how much to offer before the overdose. Not by women who mistake his attention for weakness. Not by society, which secretly fears the man who no longer needs its validation. Because he is no longer predictable. He does not operate from compulsion. He does not react like an animal to scent and skin. He has become sovereign. And sovereignty in this world of seduction, manipulation, is the rarest form of wealth. Understand this. Your discipline is a spiritual rebellion. Every time you say no to lust, you say yes to your higher nature. Every time you resist that impulse, you reclaim another inch of your soul. You do not kill desire, you forge it into devotion. You do not run from temptation, you transmute it. Like an alchemist turning base metal into gold, you take the fire of lust and you mold it into legacy. And here's what no one tells you. Sexual transmutation is not just some esoteric principle, it is physics, energy, strategy. When you withhold your seed, your essence, your power, it doesn't disappear. It builds, it climbs your spine, it floods your mind, it sharpens your instincts. It gives birth to clarity, confidence, charisma. You walk differently, you speak differently, you breathe differently. You're not frantic anymore, you're focused. Because you're no longer giving away the best parts of yourself for nothing. And when you stop giving yourself away cheaply, you become expensive. Your presence becomes rare. Your words carry weight. Your eyes intimidate not because they're cold, but because they're clear. Women don't just look at you, they feel you. Men don't just hear you, they respect you. Not because you're trying to be alpha, but because you've become whole. See, the undisciplined man is fragmented. He has no center. His energy is scattered across tabs, apps, screens, fantasies. He's spread so thin that there's nothing left of him when he looks in the mirror. He doesn't own himself because he's rented out every part of himself to whatever offers the quickest hit. But the disciplined man here is a fortress. His mind is guarded. His body is tempered. His time is protected. His energy is sacred. He does not collapse in the face of desire because he understands that unchecked desire is just disguised self-sabotage. He does not chase softness to escape discomfort. He walks into discomfort like a warrior seeking fire. And fire is what he becomes. This is not about celibacy. This is not about shame. This is not about being anti-woman, anti-sex, anti-desire. This is about hierarchy. This is about what comes first. Mission before mating. Vision before pleasure. Strength before surrender. Because the truth is, the more disciplined you become, the more magnetic you become. Not because you're playing games, but because you are not playing at all. You're done performing. You're done pretending. You're done proving. And in that silence, in that restraint, you ascend. Not to superiority, but to alignment. You stop leaking and start leading. You stop craving and start creating. And the world begins to shift around you. The same people who once overlooked you now stare. The same distractions that once seduced you now look small. The same women who once seemed like the prize you now see as just one part of a much bigger game. Because when you become the man who no longer needs anything from anyone, you become the man who can give everything from within. But only if you stay the course. Only if you remain vigilant. Because make no mistake, the temptations will not stop. They will come dressed in beauty, in validation, in comfort, in nostalgia. They will come in your lowest moments, when you're tired, lonely, weak. They will whisper, just once. They will say, you deserve it. They will lie to you, stroke your ego, pray on your knee to feel alive again. But you will not kneel, not because you are numb, not because you are heartless, but because you remember who you're becoming. And the man you are becoming does not sell his future for a moment's release, does not abandon his post for a fleeting thrill, does not trade his fire for ashes. You will stay the course, not out of fear, not out of shame, but out of reverence for yourself, for your mission, for the man waiting for you at the end of this war. He is watching, and he's worth it, because the man waiting at the end of this war is not a fantasy. He is real. He is the you that does not flinch, the you that no longer bows to desire, but rides above it like a storm walker, the you that no longer hides behind screens, but stares into the world with the eyes of a God reborn. You are not starving for sex. You are starving for strength, for self-respect, for the raw, unshakable feeling of being a man who can stand alone in the fire and not burn because he is the fire. You've been told your urges define you, that you are a slave to your biology, that you're just a man, as if that means weakness, as if that excuses failure. But you are not just a man. You are a force. a soul, a builder of worlds, a destroyer of illusions. You are the architect of your destiny. And now, you stand at the edge of choice. Will you keep giving your power away to pixels, fantasies, and fleeting comfort? Or will you reclaim it not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, but now, in this moment, with the full weight of your will? Because this is what true initiation looks like. It's not fire from heaven. It's not ancient rituals. It's not waiting for some external sign. It's you, alone in your room, choosing discipline over desire, choosing presence over escape, choosing to become the man you needed when you were most lost. This is the war of our time, not against enemies out there, but the enemy within. The soft voice that says, just this once. The hidden craving that steals your edge. The desperate search for validation in a woman's eyes instead of your own reflection. But hear me now. The man who wins this war rules himself. And the man who rules himself cannot be ruled by anyone. Not by lust, not by loneliness, not by the system, not by fear. He becomes ungovernable, no, through rebellion, but through mastery. And it begins now. Not when you're ready, not when it's easy. Now, close the tabs, silence the noise. Remember your breath. Stand up, clench your fists, not in rage, but in power. Feel your hunger and do not run from it. Own it, transmute it. Let it rise like thunder in your chest. Let it become the music you march to. Because you are not broken. You are becoming. And when the world finally sees you again, they won't recognize you. Because you will not be that soft, distracted, hollow man anymore. You will be forged, focused, feared, and free.